Hello everyone, I'm Alcazar from the Talesian Pass. Welcome to another video. Today it's patch day. Today is November the 7th. We are still waiting for patch 10.2 actually to come out any moment now. Maintenance should be over very soon. But today we're gonna talk about a little bit of detail on the last announcement from the latest WoW expansion, the War Within. Specifically, we're gonna talk about that incredible cinematic that we just witnessed after BlizzCon. We're gonna take a look into a couple of details that you might have missed that are gonna surely tie in into the general storyline of the expansion. It's showing that Blizzard is truly investing their resources into a bigger narrative that they're gonna explore in the next expansion. Alright, so to kick this off, what we're gonna do is that we're gonna start taking a look at the cinematic itself. Okay, so there is a couple of very important details that that are very worth noticing. So let's play this. I will see what we're talking about. All right. Alright, so right here, this is one of those details that are very much important about what happened on these cinematics, okay? And the general theme of this little analysis that I wanted to do, and it's the general narrative that Blizzard has been trying to carry out throughout the latest cinematics from what the WoW cinematic team, of course, of the last years, alright? And one of the most important details, it's the attention that they are giving to the previous cinematics, the events on previous cinematics. They are really trying to tie in everything. You can see it just by looking at that little piece of the cinematic. Azeroth's voice talking to Anduin, okay, which of course takes us back to Battle for Azeroth. So that first little detail that we noticed here, that hue, that bright purple, like reminiscent of arcane magic. At first, when I saw the cinematic during the BlizzCon opening ceremony, I swear, and I could have thought that it was gonna be Jaina popping out of that portal. Okay, and it's truly a blink and you'll miss it moment, and I'm gonna replay it just once. Oh shit, I went too far, sorry. There you go. Okay, so that really brief moment in which Thrall actually comes out of a portal indicates that someone opened a portal for him, most likely Jaina, right? Or that's what I want to believe. I really thought it was gonna be the first time that we would see Jaina in one of these fleshed out and beautiful cinematics. Turns out it was actually Thrall, but it's gonna tie into something else by the end of the cinematic that I will talk about just a little bit later. Okay.
You're here to tell me we don't get to hide.
And that phrase. Okay, so to kick this off as well, I really want to explain some of the reasoning that I think Blizzard has tried to do with that phrase. Okay, because we've heard this phrase before.
You're here to tell me we don't get to hide.
So we don't get to hide. So where have we listened to this phrase before? Turns out we don't have to go that far. We just have to go to the Safe Haven cinematic from Battle for Azeroth. Okay, so this is the cinematic where we found Sourfang actually trying to contact Thrall. Okay, he was actually following up on some assassins that were hunting Thrall down, right? So they are just catching up on the latest things from the Horde. He's telling him how Sylvanas is destroying everything. This is likely the most controversial part of the whole Battle for Azeroth and Shadowlands storytelling. How they put Sylvanas into all of this and making the Horde having a corrupt leader once again after everything that happened in Mists of Pandaria, right? And so the important part here, so yeah, it's obviously that Thrall got attacked, and there were some assassins trying to get him sent by Sylvanas herself, right? So follows them, saves Thrall, gets them real good, and then this happens.
You were followed. I followed them. You and I, we don't get to hide.
Okay, so we have right here the phrase again. The phrase that Anduin just told Thrall many years later. Okay, and it is many years later. We know that at least Dragonflight was 4 years after the events of the Shadowlands.
You're here to tell me we don't get to hide.
So how did Anduin actually get to know that phrase? Why is the exact same phrase? I think this is the point that they want us to
You're here to tell me we don't.
that they want us to remember about the cinematics, okay? The storytelling that Blizzard has had over the last years has been short of some of the poorest in all of their history. But they are really trying to bridge all of these differences. So that phrase comes at a moment when Anduin has already endured everything that happened on the Shadowlands, which wasn't short of traumatizing for him. And we get to see another moment that it's part of what happened to him during the events of the Shadowlands that really scarred him for quite a long time. And how did he knew this phrase? Well, we're gonna get here to the cinematic right after the fight in Sepulchre of the First Course. The moment when Anduin fully unleashes the power bestowed upon him by the jailer. But then something happens.
Your final purpose. Annihilation. The fate of all who carry my blade.
And so
My
this
son,
happens.
this blade does not belong to darkness. It was forged by valor. And also by honor.
So this moment is incredibly powerful for Anduin's development, right? Because not only he was played by the jailer in his wicked game that honestly we still are trying to make sense of. We also have Varian and Sorfang join him to free him in the afterlife, right? That phrase that he utters at the very moment Thrall appears, it's a direct connection into this, right? The connection that Anduin made with Sorfang's spirit, with his father's spirit in the Shadowlands that still haunts him. And that still reminds them that a long time has passed and that yeah, characters like them they don't get to hide. but mostly because it's the same phrase that Solfang uh, said to Thrall all those years ago, and that Anduin it's now shooting back at Thrall. All of that because of that connection in the afterlife that they had, right?
Don't get to hide.
And so now they don't get to hide.
Is that it?
There is
You
another part
needed
of this
time.
cinematic that it's so powerful,
You
so
stayed
important
away.
for us to realize.
But
You can see that
time
there's
by
a
itself
little notes here that I
heals
have,
nothing.
right? And we're gonna go into this, the Lich King pose. Okay, it's something that we've seen a lot during the weekend. I think I noticed it on one of the
You
third
didn't
or
just
fourth
come here
times
for me.
that I saw the cinematic back in BlizzCon,
It's the visions.
and it's been popping everywhere, and I like
You've
to talk
seen them.
about it because the
I suspect
the resemblance
many
it's uncanny, right?
lately.
And I definitely don't think it's incidental or accidental. I'm sorry. All right, so they keep listening to the voice.
From a dream. Something dark is coming, Anduin.
And it keeps looking like he doesn't
The
give a shit.
world needs your light again.
And that's what triggers him. Okay, so I'll talk about this little part in a little bit more detail in a moment, but this is what triggers him the most. Okay, the fact that Thrall is requesting the light from him, right? And he like you can see that he was clearly startled,
Again.
like almost frightened at the moment Thrall touches him. The expression on his face is incredible. The people who's making these cinematics have completely outdone themselves. Okay, but you can actually see how he looked even frightened by the touch of Thrall's hand on his shoulder. This is a man who's been completely AWOL, who's been completely absent from society, from everywhere, who's been completely isolated for perhaps more than 4 years. This is a person who has probably haven't talked to anyone ever since then. So this little piece of social contact, it's scary for someone like that, right? And so as soon as Thrall touches him, we get this.
My son.
The exact same visualization of what happened on this cinematic, okay? We're mirroring this part of the end of battle for of I'm sorry of Shadowlands on the support curve of the first one's raid. All right? And now as soon as this happens, then this is when this happens, okay? So there are two things absolutely essential to remember here, okay? So the last of Anduin's experiences with other people were still very much marked by his interactions and by his actions in the Shadowlands, being a tool of the jailer, right? The moment Thrall comes around and touches him and try to call upon the light inside of him, it completely triggers all of that trauma from him. And so this is the moment when we get this pose. And I don't think this is incidental because of oh yeah, well, we just want to make you think like he is Anduin Anduin, and he looks like looks like Arthas, and or I don't know, anything like that. I don't think I think the deeper meaning here is that they really want us to take a look at his expression here, his pose, right? Looking defiant and trying to use the sword to attack Thrall, because that's the last thing Anduin ever did on the Shadowlands. He is really scarred. His own struggle after leaving the afterlife, it's still of healing. The terrible things he did have really made an impression not only on his soul, maybe on his person, but on his very mind, and the behavior is quite similar. So I want to take a moment to also remind us of the very similar movement that we saw on Wrath of the Lich King. Okay, so yeah, it is exactly the same pose. We've seen it already, right? It's very, very much Blizzard trying to remind us about that, and the similarities with Arthas have always haunted Anduin for all history, right? We know that we have Anduin talking to Garrosh on the trial right after the end of Mists of Pandaria, where Garrosh is actually requesting for Anduin to talk to someone, right? The only person he wanted to talk to was actually just Anduin. And at that moment, Garrosh makes some comments that really trigger Anduin at that time because he feels like he's comparing him with Arthas, a boy king destined to rule everything, right? And and at that time, Anduin makes very clear that he does not want to be compared with the figure that Arthas was. But every now and then, we keep being reminded by the general narrative of the game that Anduin walked many of the same steps that Arthas did, and even in death. Well, maybe not in death, but in the afterlife. He was made to he was obligated to walk the same steps as well. Why the same steps? Well, mostly. Oh, sorry. That's not the one. This is the one. Mostly because during the Shadowlands we have this little cutscene where the jailer is actually using a crystal.
Our next weapon.
A crystal that holds a soul that they are using into a rune blade. And the rune blade that they are making, it's actually Charlemagne, Anduin's and Varian's sword with the soul of Arthas. And so the sword is used against Anduin in the Shadowlands.
If you can get me to let go of hope, you finally
And though
can
Sylvanas hesitated at that moment,
Submit.
the save movement can be seen here. Okay, so it's part of this of I think the reason why we keep seeing that pose, it's because they're really trying to bridge the narrative of what happened of the Shadowlands and the Jailer and Anduin and even Sylvanas, right? They're trying to make some sense out of it.
Only making
All
this
the and
harder
connecting
on
all the way
yourself.
to Arthas.
Not harder on me.
All of those who were being controlled
now,
by the
you,
Jailer's
with all the
wishes
power.
at that time.
How will you use it?
And so
I'm not
we also
come
know this
this
moment as
far
the
to
moment when
falter.
Andrew loses his will
Why do you
and
hesitate?
becomes another one of the Jailer's puppets.
Make your choice.
And I remember back then when I saw the cinematic, I really thought that Sylvanas was not gonna be able to do that to Anduin, you know. So yeah, the pose is very powerful, right? But then again, we should also remember that there is another contrast into what happens inside of Anduin, and it's shown on the Battle for Azeroth cinematic. And the detail that we see here, it's not that of the rune blade that he is actually wielding on Sepulchre of the first ones, right? And we're gonna get to another part of this cinematic in a moment when he actually breaks free. But into the light that emanates from Charlemagne. And though he actually drops the sword, he's actually calling for the light on this cinematic. Obviously, this is all happened before the Shadowlands, right? But this is the light that the Thrall is trying to get from Anduin, the same light that is not burning anymore, that Anduin actually felt like abandoned him, and we can clearly see that the light abandoned him.
Stand!
And then we see this. It's exactly the same pose, using a different sword, right? The narrative here, it's still making us remember that light was pretty much an embodiment of what Anduin wanted to represent, right? All during all that time, okay? And so on this cinematic, right at the end of this encounter in the raid, Anduin breaks free, right? And he's able to dual wield Charlemagne. And it is in this moment that he breaks free that the spell is lifted and Charlemagne starts shining again. So the light still lives within him. And we're just gonna disregard this little piece where we see Arthas turned into a wisp and continue here.
I am not that person anymore! I have no light. Not after what I've seen. Not after what I've done.
So here, we get this very close shot of the blade. Why are they showing us such a close shot of the blade? Because this is what Thrall is looking for that will not find. Not for the moment, I believe. If anything, I think this is the way that we're gonna get to see Anduin during during the expansion. How he recovers, how he is gonna fight back and maybe heal his connection to the light. Charlemagne is not shining. The light is very much not within Anduin anymore, at least not for now. And that's all right. And it's completely all right. And many people have already argued that Anduin looks older, but it's not like that he looks older. It's more than he looks scarred, physically and mentally, right? Maybe Variant's life was tougher way back in the day, yeah. And perhaps people who have never liked Anduin as a character might think that Anduin's journey has not been as painful as his father and that he's still not pretty much the same man that his father was. But these are people who evolved in completely different ways and completely different people who deal with trauma in a much different sense. And we can see this sheer expression of pain that we can see from Anduin's face. Again, the details that we see from this cinematic, it's just uncanny. But it's visible pain, it's visible horror of everything that he had to endure that still haunts him. Not because of what he suffered, but of what he made others suffer.
Not after what I've done.
And that's what he thinks has made him lost connection with the light. And so we see the blade.
You are not
dull.
your past, Anduin.
And that phrase from Thrall, it's also very powerful. You're not your past. Very much as Thrall fought to restore the honor in the Horde. The Horde is not all their past. These are two people who are equally scarred and equally part of a bloody legacy that will never end. It's the cycle of hatred. And so at this point, it's very important for me to show
I trust you.
That by Thrall doing this, he is very much at the moment we see this exposing himself, right? He's showing vulnerability to Anduin when Anduin is at its most vulnerable as well, to inspire some trust into him. And none other than Thrall is doing this. What many others would believe would still be the embodiment of the war chief of the Horde after he dealt with the Afterlight and after he dealt with a bloody fourth war. I think this is also the reason why at the beginning of the cinematic, the portal opens to let Thrall in instead of Jaina. Anduin needed someone that he might still see as an adversary to show that he can trust again instead of just showing Jane up, right? And so this is the moment that Anduin actually gets to understand that he can be vulnerable, that he can be part of a world, that he doesn't have to fight, that he doesn't have to respond on the same way that he did after losing touch with the world for over 4 years. And then we get to this high-pitched noise. I actually thought that was gonna be like maybe a fight between the two of them, but it was actually Azeroth, and I wonder if that's the same kind of noise that Magni would hear, like that kind of crystallic screech. I don't know. So
Look,
Anduin gets on his feet,
whatever's coming,
and now they
I'll
decide
stand
to
with
work
you.
together.
of course I will. But we were drawn here by the voice.
So that we were drawn here by the voice. That's something that I wish to address as well, because I don't really think that it was just Anduin and Thrall listening to the voice. I believe there's something a little bit more outplayed here, and my theory is that we're gonna see it, and they probably the clues are in this cinematic. So here we can see Jaina being tortured in Torghast.
Whoever you are,
Now
whatever
Thrall.
you are, I will fight you. You will not break me.
They have reached the seat of the Primus.
And so in this part of the expansion, we had already freed Bane, and we were still looking for Tyrande. We eventually got to save Jaina, and we got to save Thrall. We were not able to recover Anduin, and that's why all that happened. But my theory is that after the events on the Shadowlands, when the jailer actually tried to draw power from the literal soul of the world, yeah. After all, this is the World Soul Saga, right? I believe that the people who were tormented in Torghast from our world, the ones who were present at the moment the jailer almost used the power of the World Soul in the sepulchre of the first ones, these are the ones who are actually listening to this screech.
Who is
Probably
it
that's
from?
going to include us, because we were
Who's
also
calling out
in the
to
halls
us?
of Torghast.
I'm not sure yet.
So I would think that this is also gonna include Bane, most likely Tyrande, Jaina, Thrall, most likely Magni, perhaps even Bolvar as well. I think that what they want to do here is to try their hardest to make the narrative of the Shadowlands and Battle for Azeroth a little bit more cohesive to the end of Legion and to the lore that they released on the Warcraft Chronicles. I think it's the best thing that they could have done to try to mend some of the damage that has been done over the last few years.
But that sword.
And that sword, yeah, that sword. Important detail also, right? I'm not sure if Blizzard will intend to make this a little bit more clear in game, but this is something that has always bothered me, and it's the general sense of scale that we can see from the in world cinematics and the cinematics like this that we see, right? The scale of the world, it's really wacky, and it's not very not very well put and fleshed out in the physical world. But there's something that should definitely be told here, and it's that the
At some
sword, it's clearly on a different angle, right? Whereas if you take a look at Silithus nowadays, the sword is pretty much vertical, right? But here the sword, it's like on a different angle, like it's actually falling, like it's going on the ground, like when you, I don't know, whenever you put a stick into the ground or into sand and it starts to tilt over the side, right? It's possible that that's what's happening to the sword, and that's also one of the origins of what this all of this was happening, right? So I don't think Blizzard was planning to do much with the sword because they were still trying to figure many things out, right? But the opportunity that they had, they to address what happened with the sword, knowing that the community was asking that question in an outcry, is incredible. But add to that all of the emotional baggage and the character development that we see from Anduin all the way from Battle for Azeroth, I think it's incredible. Um, the fact that they are trying to use the very little elements from multiple cinematics and from multiple places in their narrative, it's incredible as well, right? Let us not forget that this is the last time
And
that
it
this
sickens me to think.
Anduin in the world, right? This is the last time that we see him, and it's on the maw, in the realm of of everyone that it's doomed to be for all eternity, with Sylvanas still being oversaw by Tyrannus Doritos, right? And so this phrase from Sylvanas at that time, it's quite important at that moment.
Faced who I was and accepted what I've done.
Which is very similar to what Thrall actually tells Anduin, right? And by all means, I think it's part of that healing journey that Anduin is facing, that will continue even when the world is at its most perilous. But it shows the bravery, yeah, and the fortitude that Anduin must face. Right? He was at first a priest after all, right? So yeah, I think this is pretty much it. This is everything that I wanted to discuss. Incredible work, incredible work by the cinematics team. It's just mind blowing. It never ceases to amaze us. I'm so glad as well that they have made a cinematic that makes us appreciate the art that so many other people have done in WoW over the years, and that they are trying to piece it together to make it more cohesive, to bring or to bring some closure into all of these stories, right? After so much endurance and difficult times that we had to face during the last few years. So yeah, that's it for me. This is what I want you all to see it. We will see the continuation of this story probably on the rest of Dragonflight, which comes to the latest patch, or at least the latest content patch. We will definitely see at 10.3, surely, perhaps with an epilogue, because it was teased that way by Holly Longdale on the BlizzCon announcement. And we will see the continuation of this story, hopefully. I don't know, maybe no later than a year, I hope. And with that, I also bid you farewell. Al Diel Shala. Farewell, everyone. See you on the next video. If you like it, give a like, leave a comment if you would also like to tell me something or your take on all of this. And I will see you next time.